For years, Mario Kart and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe have reigned supreme over the world of kart racers. But can the return of an old foe bring an end to their dominance? What have Mario Kart 8 and Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled got to offer? And which is the best game for you? Today, we're gonna talk about it. Last month, Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled, a combination between the original CTR and Crash Nitro Kart, released across console platforms, but I decided I'd buy it on my Switch, which, unsurprisingly, and obviously as a complete coincidence, put it in direct competition with one of my favourite games on the platform, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Today, as the result of a great deal of time and effort, let's compare both and decide which one is best and whom for. To do this, we're going to look at three key areas of each game, these being the gameplay and game mechanics, the game modes including both single player and multiplayer, and finally the content within each game including characters, tracks, items and customizables. Each of these games excel in different areas, so make sure you let me know what you think to both. If you do go on to enjoy today and want to see how Team Sonic Racing fits into this, also make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Anyway, let's get into it. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe continues to build on the solid formula that you expect, and that is so fun in a Mario Kart game. The karts feel smoother and more enjoyable than ever to drive, and whenever you pick up any Mario Kart game, it's like getting back on a bike after a while away. You just don't forget the basics. The game continues to build on the drift mechanics, with probably the biggest addition to the mechanics in Mario Kart 8 being the anti-gravity zones. These zones, which vary in prominence from circuit to circuit, allow players to gain speed boosts through hitting certain objects on track, or maybe even an opponent. Be careful though, if you hit your opponent at the wrong angle, you'll give them a boost too, and nobody likes helping the enemy out in these games. This feature is so good it's difficult to see it not carrying on into future Mario Kart games. Difficulty wise, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a game built so that pretty much anybody can pick it up and be relatively competitive quickly. Yes, there's challenges to be had such as getting the drifting right, but overall this is a really casual and fun game to play. That's why it's been so successful for all these years, and that's why Nintendo will continue to push on with the formula. So what about the driving mechanics in CTR Nitro-Fueled? How do they compare to the solid casual experience Mario Kart 8 offers? Without the quality of its game mechanics, the original CTR wouldn't have been half the game it was, so you can imagine the time and importance I've put into getting this section right. I really wanted to get a strong feel for and understanding of these mechanics so I could confidently say just how good they are and how they compare to Mario Kart. The first thing to say is that thankfully, and probably best for their sanity, can you imagine the grief they'd got if they'd thrown the original mechanics out of the window? Beanox have been faithful to the original with the game mechanics, so they're just as good and challenging as they've always been. Even turning around a corner in this game is far more of a challenge than in Mario Kart, where the car always seems to come back to you if you get it wrong. So from the get-go, players know this isn't going to be a laid-back, feet-up tropical holiday by the pool easy experience. Instead, CTR is going to push you and probably slightly drown you in that pool at times if you haven't got your experience armbands on. The turning mechanics are just the start though, because to be quick on this game, you've got to put some real time and effort into mastering the boost mechanics, most notably the drift boost. This requires using one button to drift and then another to initiate a boost. If you can nail 3 boosts within one drift, you'll get an even bigger boost in speed. You'll also need to get your head around the jumping boost mechanic too. The more height you can gain, the bigger the boost you'll get on landing. All this combines to make CTR the most challenging kart racer I've ever played, especially for new players, but this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Yes, it takes time and skill to master, but it's these mechanics that set it apart from other kart racers in the field, including Mario Kart. And once you tame this game, once you pull off a sequence of drift boosts and jump boosts and begin winning races, it's so rewarding. Overall then, gameplay wise, if you just want to pick up a kart racer and have some really casual fun with it, then I don't think anything can rival Mario Kart. But if you want something a little different, more challenging and something that will widen your horizons on kart races, you've got to play Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled. What about the game modes then? It's all good and well saying the game mechanics are fun to play with, but you need good game modes to use them in if you're going to enjoy the game. As a very quick note to start with, I'm almost exclusively going to be talking in regards to single player game modes. If there's an area where I feel as though Mario Kart 8 could be improved notably, and where I hope Mario Kart 9 does make some additions, it's in the single player game modes. Probably the biggest part of 8 Deluxe's single play comes in the form of 12 cups players can compete in, all of which include 4 Grand Prix, and if you win, you get a pretty cool trophy. Although I'd like them to build the cups into or create something brand new, with a larger emphasis on a story in the future as I've expressed in previous videos, this does not make playing through these cups alone boring by any means. They're nothing spectacular, but you can still have a good time with them. One issue I do have with the cups, however, is that you gain little from playing them through. All the cups, tracks, and almost everybody but Gold Mario is unlocked from the start of the game. Although I understand why pretty much everything is unlocked from the beginning, so that players of the original Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U didn't have to go through it all again, it's a little disappointing that there's little progression to be made, but I guess it's just a one-off. For players who want a more tailored single player experience, the Verse Racers is a very nice mode. The mode allows you to customize features such as placing opponents in teams, customizing items in the races, filtering whether just karts, bikes or both are allowed in the race, offering a selection for the ways tracks can be chosen, and how many races the championship should include. I often like to compete in a championship beyond 4 races, so this is a mode I greatly appreciate. The game also includes a time trial mode where you race around each track the standard number of laps, but with only the aid of 3 mushrooms to boost you on your way. At the end of the trial you get to see your individual lap times and overall time. Although it's a little difficult to get too excited about this type of mode, it's fun and helps you improve your speed, so I'm glad it's there. Mario Kart 8 undoubtedly has some cool game modes to be enjoyed when playing alone, but maybe its single player could learn a thing or two from CTR's adventure mode. One of the major strengths of Nitro-Fueled in this section is that it includes a single player adventure mode taken from the original Crash Team Racing, which, although not massive in length, is a feature I'm really fond of. As I'm sure plenty of you know, the adventure mode has you competing in different styled races for cups, challenge tokens and relics on a number of tracks across 5 areas, with each culminating in a boss race. The hub areas themselves, which I found surprisingly useful for improving my driving technique on the game, and the mini cutscenes that you get before a boss race for example, are small things which helped massively in giving the adventure mode far more of a structure and individual feel than you get in just a series of short one-off cups. These combined with the different styled races kept the adventure mode fresh and engaging throughout my playthrough and made the mode a real asset to the game. I hope adventure modes in Kart Racers can begin to make a return to fashion. I'd love to see something like this set in the Mushroom Kingdom in the next Mario Kart. Aside from the adventure mode, there's a load of other game modes that are fun to jump into, whether you're looking for a competitive race or something a little different. Cup races are just like cup races in Mario Kart. These cup races allow players to pick any driver and kart they've unlocked in the game and compete across 4 races in a mini championship. These events make for a nice change for players that want something more streamlined than a session in the adventure mode, or maybe that have completed the adventure mode altogether. Another mode which needs a mention is time trial mode. Away from the chaos of battles and races against other opponents, it's nice to get the track all to yourself and unleash a sequence of drift boosts and put in a real nice lap. I've got to say I find time trial mode particularly fun and more important on CTR because, with the really cool driving mechanics, hooking a lap up and exploring the track without distraction is just so fun. You can also jump into a quick CTR challenge or relic race across any of the tracks from either the original CTR or Crash Nitro Kart. This is definitely worth a look at for players who like these race types, especially considering that you can't play these modes in adventure mode for the tracks from Crash Nitro Kart. In addition, there's also a number of crystal challenges which offer something different too. Collecting a number of crystals against the clock and with obstacles all over the place is actually pretty hard, and will almost certainly take you a number of attempts, unless you're like a CTR god or something. Now for people like me who seriously enjoy and like the idea of a single player adventure mode, then CTR is almost certainly going to have your preference of single player game modes. Yes, I absolutely agree that multiplayer modes and experience are more important in these types of games, but that's not to say single player modes don't deserve plenty of attention. CTR in its adventure mode just does single player better. Ever since I jumped into Mario Kart Double Dash about 1,000 years ago, the inclusion of the battle mode in a Mario Kart game has been a major weapon in its arsenal of game modes. A Deluxe has a choice of 5 battle modes: Traditional Balloon Battle, Bomb and Blast, Coin Runner, Shine Thief, and my personal favourite, Renegade Roundup, which is essentially cops and robbers, and allows players to take on the role of either the 5-0 or the criminals. I don't get too involved in the roles though. This is PC Roy calling for support from any available units. There's youths on the run doing young people stuff and disturbing the peace. I'm going after them. I've never let one get away from me before, and I'm sure as hell not starting now. You're Nick Sunshine. Save your back chat for the judge. Particularly with friends, the battle modes in Mario Kart 8 are a lot of fun. They have a ton of customizable options, including the option to turn on teams, selection of items, round length, CPU difficulty, karts only and bikes only options, and the number of rounds. The battle modes also have a choice of 8 courses to battle it out on, all of which I've no complaints about and are fun. There's always something satisfying about seeing a Luigi's Mansion course of some description in these games. If you want to take the most out of the battle modes, you need to play them with others. Either way though, I had a lot of fun and have no real complaints about this mode. Unsurprisingly, to take the most out of CTR's battle mode, you'll need to be playing with others too. However, the battle mode is actually really strong. I found it to be a really refreshing break from the intense skill-driven races. CTR Nitro-Fueled includes 5 battle types of players to partake in, these being Limit Battle, Capture the Flag, Crystal Grab, Last Car Driving, and Steal the Bacon. All of these game modes offer something a little different and are worth trying out, but I think the traditional Limit Battle has got to be my favourite. There are 12 courses to battle it out over. That's far more than Mario Kart, and there is also slightly greater customization too, with options on everything ranging from the time limit to exactly what power-ups are in play, like down to the single items. I thoroughly enjoyed just playing the battle mode on my own, but obviously it was way more fun in multiplayer. Overall, both Mario Kart 8 and CTR have very nice battle modes to the point where it's difficult to pick between them. Yes, CTR has a few more courses, and being able to pick exactly what items are allowed in a game is nice, but on the other hand, Mario Kart's battles will always be special with a number of iconic modes that are great. So basically, unless you're obsessed with being an intense 1970s police officer like me, then there's really not much to choose between them, so really, this is a secondary factor in our decision. What about the crucial multiplayer though? For any kart racer, the multiplayer is so important. Kart racers are usually games designed to be experienced with and against friends, more so than on your own, so getting this right is pivotal. Local multiplayer wise, the game modes we just discussed in both these games gain a lot from being played with friends. Because Mario Kart 8 isn't a game which utilises the single player experience, it gains an incredible amount once you start playing with others. Apart from time trials, every mode you can experience alone, you can experience with friends. Whereas on my own I have found myself a few races in and bored with Mario Kart at times, as soon as I have competitors sat next to me in my living room, the experience is transformed. Because Mario Kart 8 is relatively kind to players who very rarely play the game, as I mentioned earlier, almost anyone can pick this game up and get the hang of it pretty quickly, it leads to incredible races, big comebacks, and even bigger arguments. I'm sort of joking about that last bit, but frankly, it's some of the best fun I've had on Switch. It's not just in its local multiplayer where Mario Kart 8 thrives, its online multiplayer is exceptional too. Just as with when it's you and your friends sat on the sofa, the online multiplayer tends to be really competitive. I mean, I went from 1st to 11th in the final half lap of Baby Park, which was really good, but just shows how competitive it can be. Jumping into an online game is not just fun though, it's also really easy and streamlined, so matching the multiplayer in Mario Kart 8 is going to be tough for any game. CTR is sort of similar. Playing the game with friends instead of on your own is definitely more fun, although the jump isn't as significant. The single player modes which players can also enjoy with friends are either a single race or a more substantial cup race. Now, this is the start of where CTR's greatest strength, the feature which makes it so distinguishable from other kart racers out there, makes its life a little bit more difficult. Unless your friends have put in a fair amount of time on CTR, they're gonna struggle big time to match you, because the gameplay is so challenging and unforgiving, so compared to Mario Kart, it can often be nowhere near as competitive at all. It's still fun, but obviously people tend to get a little frustrated when you just keep beating them, and oh, screw that. If you want to steamroll your family at a game, buy this. Online multiplayer on CTR Nitro-Fueled is a really enjoyable experience, but I do need to mention a few issues. The skill levels on this game are so varied, some players are masters of the mechanics and tracks, and some just aren't. This means races can often be so uncompetitive. The situation is then compounded by the fact that when the leader finishes the race, you've got 30 seconds to finish the race or it's over anyway, which can get frustrating and cut battles at the back short. Basically, compared to Mario Kart where almost anyone can win after a little bit of practice, the skill difference is massive between players on this game. Now, if you're an experienced veteran on CTR and win races consistently, this probably isn't a problem for yourself. But for people who are perhaps watching this video to find out whether CTR is for them, and therefore probably not a pro at the game, you do need to be aware of this and just sort of accept it really if you're going to buy the game and go online. Moreover, I'm not saying I'd change it at all because the skill level is what makes CTR so unique, but I guess the trade-off is this uncompetitive nature. Another slight issue I've got to point out is that from my experience on Switch, matchmaking is a slightly longer and not as smooth experience as it is with Mario Kart, but it's nothing major. Despite these slight negatives though, I do have to stress that there is still a lot of fun to be had with the online multiplayer. Yeah, maybe fighting for the win isn't possible a lot of the time, but battling for any position is fun and means almost as much. If you've been battling with someone for 6th place all through a race, you do not want to see them cross the finish line before yourself. So maybe the online multiplayer isn't quite as competitive as Mario Kart 8, but you can literally take more from it. I mean more characters, more tracks, and more customizables, all thanks to the hopefully revolutionary Grand Prix Seasons mode we've got in this kart racer. Every race you complete on the game, especially online, gives you Nitro Fuel, which is an in-game currency which can be used to purchase new and popular content. I'll talk more about this in the content section, but for what CTR lacks in the competitive gameplay side of multiplayer, it pretty much gains in making you want to keep racing to progress and unlock some really nice stuff. Although it does have a few issues, there's a lot to be said for the multiplayer in CTR, whether that be local or online, especially when considering how cool the Grand Prix seasons are. But I personally feel that it falls ever so slightly short of Mario Kart for the majority of people. The overall multiplayer experience in that game, whether that be with friends or online with random people, is just fantastic, and gameplay wise, no other kart racer can rival the multiplayer action in Mario Kart. The tracks in Mario Kart 8 are fantastic. In total, there's 48 in the game, and the vast majority look and play wonderfully. They radiate the essence of the Mario and Nintendo universe, and I particularly like the fact that a few other Nintendo series have tracks in there, such as Animal Crossing and F-Zero. It's also great to actually feel like you're racing through the environment, whether that be through and up the trees in the wild woods, or amongst the clouds in Cloud Top Cruise. The anti-gravity sections we mentioned earlier are a big asset to both the newly designed and returning traditional tracks. These sections present players with difficult choices, which adds a further tactical layer too. Do you stick to the normal road, or take an alternate anti-gravity route in the hope of gaining some speed and positions? Ultimately, the tracks in Mario Kart 8 are a major part in making it the fun and relaxed experience that it is. Earlier on, I discussed the quality and challenging nature of the driving mechanics in CTR, but without the good tracks to use these mechanics on, the game just wouldn't be much cop. In total, there's 31 standard tracks in Nitro-Fueled, taken from the first 2 Crash Racing games, but because each new online season will bring another one, that number is going to keep rising. We already got the brand new track Twilight Tour in the first season, which is a blast to play. Yes, there's fewer tracks in CTR than Mario Kart, but in reality, it's still plenty to keep you occupied. But just how good are they? The tracks in Nitro-Fueled are just as good technically as the originals, the layout and makeup of most tracks are fantastic with players needing to use every jump and bend to achieve a boost, and this is something translated onto the altered Nitro Kart tracks so that they work with the CTR mechanics. Driving all of these tracks in Nitro-Fueled requires a lot more skill than in Mario Kart, but I guess that's unsurprising considering the gameplay mechanics of each game. No 2 tracks are the same either in Nitro-Fueled. They all offer different challenges with the former of their sharp turns and bumpy terrain, and frankly, some are just much more difficult than others. Another reason why each track is a pretty unique experience to drive is that plenty of them make use of their environment to influence the racing. In Sewer Speedway, for example, players need to utilise the banking and elevation of the sewers to achieve some cool boosts, and on Polar Pass, karts handle so much differently on the ice that you'd expect to come up against on such a cold course. Not that Crash feels the need to put a shirt on though, never mind gloves and a coat. Visually, the courses have unsurprisingly had an incredible makeover too, and particularly on Xbox and PS4, they look absolutely stunning and fit the look and feel of what a Crash Bandicoot game is flawlessly. I have seen it mentioned an awful lot that the game can't possibly look great because it's only 30 FPS compared to its rivals who are up at 60, but honestly, it really isn't an issue. Well, it wasn't for me anyway, and I've played it on the Switch in handheld mode. Characters wise, Mario Kart 8 has a massive roster of 41 characters, spread across 6 categories from very light to very heavy. Very light characters have better acceleration and handling, whereas the heavier characters have greater top speed and weight, meaning they could easily bully the kids off the track. It's nice that the characters' strengths vary, but seeing as we're talking about the kids, I'm going to have a little grumble. I've talked about the Mario Kart roster before, and although there's some great characters in there, the likes of Mario, Peach, Bowser and Yoshi, some of the baby characters are simply unnecessary. Baby Rosalina jumps to mind. So, a Deluxe may have 41 characters, most of which I enjoy and have played at some point, but some of them I feel like are filler at best. Just like with the track, CTR Nitro-Fueled is full to the brim with characters. On release, the game included 26 characters to play as, the 15 playable from the original CTR roster, and 11 new additions which can be purchased in the pit stop using the in-game currency Wumpa coins. However, the roster isn't set in stone at 26 characters, with an additional 5, Tana and the Trophy Girls, added already in the first Grand Prix and available for purchase in the pit stop. All the characters in the game are split into 4 classes depending on their strengths, these being from easiest to hardest, turn, balanced, acceleration, and then the hardest speed. When driving the car, I could really notice the difference in both the handling and top speed of the car depending on the character, which was great. Overall, the characters in CTR Nitro-Fueled are vast in number, and many of them offer different experiences. Moreover, unlike in Mario Kart where a few of the characters feel surplus to requirements, I feel as though every character in Nitro-Fueled is justified. For example, as I just mentioned, in the first pit stop we got the 4 Trophy Girls as playable characters. Now although they are similar in many ways, well, there's hardly the contrast between Coco Bandicoot and Nitrous Oxide, they've all been placed in different classes, so there's reasons to try all of them out on track. They are starting with the baby characters though in the next Grand Prix, but hopefully the overlap will stop with just Crash and Coco. Overall then, the characters and tracks in both these games are big in number and fun to play. The biggest difference undoubtedly refers back to the overall theme of these games though, and a pattern I'm sure you're going to be very familiar with by the end of this video. CTR's races and tracks present a greater challenge to players, whereas Mario Kart presents a more casual experience. I really do believe that the items in Kart Racers are a big part of what sets them apart from an average racing game. They mix up the gameplay, allow you to take rivalries with opponents to the point where you're blowing them up, and they add another layer of strategy to your race. As such, getting these right is a good idea if you're wanting to create a good game in the genre. Out of the two for me, Mario Kart does items so well, better than any other kart racer I've ever played. Mario Kart just wouldn't be Mario Kart if there weren't red and green shells flying all over the place, bombs exploding in front of you whilst you attempt to dodge banana peels, and somebody at the back launching a blue shell at the unsuspecting leader to then shoot through the field with the use of a star. Yes, Mario Kart has a beautiful roster of items which can change the game in the blink of an eye, keeping it competitive and unpredictable until the last turn, but that also requires some strategical competence. Maybe you're sat in second in a race, you've got a championship lead of 5 points, and then you get a red shell. Do you launch the red shell at the leader to win the race, or hold it as a form of defense in case of an attack from behind? These are the decisions I've had to make quickly time and time again, and which I love Mario Kart for. Now, although I'm not going to sit here and tell you I adore CTR's items as much as Mario Kart, because I don't, this doesn't mean CTRs are bad. I don't mind them at all. To name a few, the game includes tracking missiles, bowling bombs, explosive crates, mass and turbo boosts, all of which are fun to use. The biggest difference is probably that they are less forgiving. Items in Mario Kart can allow you to go from the back to the front on a regular occurrence. That happens far less frequently in CTR. If you find yourself lagging behind, even with the use of items, it's ridiculously challenging to get back into contention for the race victory. CTR's items are great, but they're just not quite as good as Mario Kart's in my opinion. Players can do quite a lot of customizing in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. At the start of a race, there's a big choice of what kart or bike you want to race with, and then you can also customize your wheels and parachute. Many of these draw inspiration from across the Nintendo universe too, which is really cool. However, if you're looking to do some real customization, this game isn't the pinnacle in that field. You can't add stickers or other paints or decals to karts, and although some characters do have multiple versions of themselves in the game, Mario also has Tanuki Mario for example, character skins aren't really a thing. What about CTR though? When considering the sheer amount of content in CTR, both in regards to tracks and characters and everything else, customizables wise this game is predictably packed and growing. There are so many karts, kart paint jobs, kart wheels, kart stickers, character skins and character skin animations, and all this is growing with the Grand Prix, so although the game doesn't have customizable parachutes like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it definitely wins this section. Considering that both of these games are kart racers, they offer very different experiences. I really want to give a definitive answer of which one is best, but if I'm being completely honest with myself, I can't. What I can say however is that Mario Kart is always going to be a difficult multiplayer experience to match for casual players, which a lot of people who play these games are, whereas Crash Team Racing is the ultimate kart racing experience for players who want a challenging kart racer that demands skill and the investment of a lot of time to master. I adore both these games. For most people, I believe the casual experience that Mario Kart offers is difficult to match, but if you like the look of the challenge CTR offers, I really would recommend giving Crash Bandicoot and his friends a chance. I have and I love it, especially considering the adventure mode that there is to dive into and the progression that the Grand Prix offers. What do you think though? I really want to encourage you to share your thoughts on this topic. Is my judgment fair here that they excel in different areas and therefore it's really tricky to pick between them? Or is one just clearly better than the other? I already know some of you Crash fans believe CTR is far superior to Mario Kart because you've told me before. Anyway, let me know down in the comments. If you have found this video fun, entertaining, useful, or maybe just something to pass the time whilst you're on the toilet, hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel for plenty more videos on Nintendo and Crash Bandicoot. Thank you for watching. I really do hope you've enjoyed today because I've loved putting the time into this video and hopefully I've done a good job. I look forward to seeing you again very soon.